Good morning, everybody. This is Darren Crawley. I'm the Partner Account Manager for Ascari, and I wanted to say, firstly, thank you very much for attending today's webinar. I appreciate we are very much living in what the media have called very much unprecedented times and very challenging times. And firstly, I'd just like to say to everyone, I hope you're all well. And everybody that you know, whether it's family, friends, or colleagues, are well and coping with the current environment. It is very challenging, and certainly our thoughts and our prayers go out to all of the partner community, not just across EMEA but also globally. One of the things we wanted to do today was really offer some help and advice in terms of how partners can enable their customers to work effectively given these very challenging times because of COVID-19. It may seem that business is somewhat trivial given the public health crisis, but the fact of the matter is many of us still have businesses to run, and many of those businesses have had a huge shock, principally due to the upsurge in demand for home working. With social distancing, any professional jobs that usually involve working from an office or from a meeting room are now principally conducted at home. Now, this presents a challenge in terms of how users of SAP Business One go about business as usual. And what I wanted to do today was just really give you a little bit of an insight into how Cloud for Partners can help SAP Business One resellers really enable their customers to respond to the challenge we face. And really, we're going to focus on three key areas to do with agility in terms of changing to the current circumstances, rapid deployment in terms of getting users set up and available at home on Business One. And finally, something that's very important, elasticity, the ability to flex out, enable extra resources to be made available to users. And then if those need to be shrunk back down, that can be facilitated too. So before I go into any further detail, one of the things I wanted to do today was just really give you an introduction as to who we are, what we do, how the Cloud for Partners service actually works. Obviously, we'll be looking at the why cloud question, both in terms of long-term trends, but also obviously given current immediate circumstances. Have a look at the benefits of actually moving to the cloud, both for partners as well as end customers, and give a little bit more of an insight into how we can work with our partner network so we can actually help each other through these very testing times. There'll also be a brief Q&A at the end of the webinar, and this will be facilitated through the chat box and the Q&A function on GoToWebinar. So if you can pitch in with any questions that you may think of during this very brief 20-minute, possibly 30-minute presentation, then we'll cover those off at the end. Okay, so for those who don't know us, Ascari is an SAP Business One Gold partner. We've been trading as such since 2013, and we're actually licensed to sell SAP Business One across the whole of EMEA with a very strong domestic marketplace in the UK and Ireland. One thing we've found in that period of time, though, is that just like COVID-19, technology doesn't necessarily have any hard and fast borders. So many of the projects and deployments we've been involved with have actually taken on an international nature. Now, we've actually, from the get-go, promoted SAP Business One as a cloud-first ERP solution. And over that period of around about 7 years, we've actually learned a lot about how SAP Business One can be deployed effectively in a cloud environment. And what we've actually done in that period of time is actually work very closely both with our domestic SAP business partners but also across a more diverse and far-reaching reseller channel to provide very quick, easy, secure, and adaptable hosting services. And we've also done this in partnership not only with SAP themselves, but also with Amazon Web Services. And that's quite an important part of our service provisioning. We have in effect a software as a service and infrastructure as a service model, which we officially launched in conjunction with AWS just under 2 years ago. And what we actually do is, in essence, offer a best-in-class cloud hosting service, but specifically geared towards the SAP Business One reseller community. And that's one of our key strengths and enablers. Think of it as very much as the best of both worlds. Not only do we know SAP Business One inside out because we're an SAP Gold partner, we're also a certified AWS partner, and we have the ability to provide to partners and their customers the resources that are available through those two world-class technology providers. If we're looking specifically at Cloud for Partners itself, how it works is very much on a layered approach, a bit like a cheesecake. Right at the bottom, the bedrock of our service proposition, all data is stored in Amazon Web Services infrastructure. Layered on top of that is our own IP, which is our Cloud for Partners service integration and deployment capability software. So what we've actually done is we've actually created as infrastructure as code on that AWS platform the ability to not only deploy SAP Business One in the cloud in a virtual environment, we also have the ability within that environment to integrate into SAP Business One many of the third-party applications that SAP Business One partners see as essential to make the solutions for their customers work. This was something that was relevant in terms of the environment for SAP Business One customers even before the recent weeks and months. Yes, customers are demanding more and more cloud-based services. Vendors are driving it as well. SAP 2 years ago in Barcelona at the SMB Innovation Summit for EMEA had a very clear and concise message to the partner network. SAP Business One has to be deployed in the cloud. And technology trends are also driving that. Now, this was a constant and a momentum that was happening in different parts of the world at different stages. The recent public health crisis has now brought this to a head. To have customers and their users deployed at home and effectively using their systems relies very heavily upon cloud-based technology. And we hope the cloud-based technology that we're talking about today can give you some insight into how it can help your customers in this very trying period. I mentioned earlier some of the key elements to do with agility, rapid deployment, and elasticity. These are what I would say are the cornerstones of the conversations that both Ascari have had with their own customers about what they need from systems moving forwards. But it's also from a Cloud for Partners perspective. When I speak to resellers of B1, whether they be in the UK, mainland Europe, Africa, or further afield, these are common words and themes that come across as being very much a business imperative today. And I think I've already suggested one of the things that's really key here is the fact we can offer speed of deployment because we have infrastructure as code being built upon an AWS platform in a virtual environment. You can actually deploy SAP Business One if it's in multi-tenant within the same working day, or a complete dedicated service unit that is for a more complex and larger project, that can be done within a working week. It's a low cost entry model, so that's attractive to businesses already, and it's a very simple conversation to have with customers. Also, when we look at Cloud for Partners, this is our service which is backed by proven world-leading cloud technology offered by Amazon Web Services. We're always innovating. We have a team of around about 20 people working in the UK who principally focus on technology. We're a bunch of techies, basically. And because of that, all of our partners that we work with have access to our unique expertise, not just in cloud, but also in SAP Business One in the cloud. We try and be flexible and predictable with billing. This is ever so important given the current situation, because partners and also customers don't necessarily want to spend cash to any great extent in the immediate future because cash flow is uncertain. We can flex. And in terms of the actual model for using the service, we have to go away from fixed specifications, fixed containers that we have had in computing now for decades. On-premise technology is all about putting a server in an office, a warehouse, or a factory, and you're having to estimate or guess even what the capacity of that server will be in 3 years down the line. Don't have to worry about that with the cloud. It's very much a consumption-based model. And in particular, when we look at a dedicated service unit or a bespoke build for your customer, we have the ability to start from day one with the resource that they need and then expand out as their business grows. The beauty of that is they only pay for what they use in the here and now. They're not having to pay for unused resources that may be needed 3 years down the line. A better example of this is if you have the vision in mind of somebody blowing up a balloon. It's that expansion model. The more demands that are placed upon a business because of greater workload and the greater amount of data that is created and stored, the balloon expands. If that business has to scale down, then you can contract the balloon, but you have the ability to flex up and down at any stage. And that's a key business differentiator. And as part of that, we help our partners to tell a very compelling total cost of ownership story. So one of the things I can make available to all of our partners is a cost comparison spreadsheet where you look line by line between the costs of on-premise, including hidden costs. And those hidden costs can include not only the cost of the hardware, but also its running, electricity, air conditioning, environmental controls, staff costs, who's the system administrator that has to take backups. You have insurances, not only against the equipment itself, but also any impact that it has on customers if there's a data breach or a lack of continuity of service or disruption of that service. All of those factors are hidden costs that line by line add up and make on-premise provisioning of the B1 system less and less attractive. And when you compare that to a single cost per month on cloud with our C4P service on AWS, that really becomes a very compelling story. But as we've seen just in recent weeks, nothing is ever in a static environment, and particularly business and their systems. So as the journey goes from day one of the initial build, where we create a database, an application server, and a presentation server, as well as provisioning licenses for access through RDS, we do know that once that initial build phase is over, there will always be changes in a partner's customer, and that's driven by the changes in their business. So it may well be that further resources needed to be added to. could be storage, whether it's data and logs, backup, deep storage or root-based memory. We have the ability to provide different levels of resources depending on the demand, and we can scale those up or scale those down. Also, we can actually amend the very essence of the core aspects of your infrastructure. So it could involve a slightly higher database, for instance, going from a HANA small to a HANA medium as that business grows. Application servers look after the interaction with other applications. So if there's something particularly heavy that needs to work with SAP Business One, for instance, what used to be BAS, a manufacturing package. Again, if that's added to the B1 system over a later stage of the deployment, we can spin up a larger application server to manage that workload. And finally, with presentation servers are always based on the number of users accessing the B1 system. So as you add more RDS cell licenses for more B1 users, basically we look at the presentation server, and again that can be scaled up to allow for a greater user group. But principally we look at all of those core components as very much based upon t-shirt sizing, from small, medium, large and extra large. And throughout this process, there's ongoing monitoring and support. AWS gives our certified engineers the capability to monitor the performance of all of the core components 24/7. And whenever there is a situation where we feel a resource is coming to its capacity or near capacity, we actually have triggers that notify our engineers, and that means we can notify you in good time that you need to increase resource and make those changes. And that minimizes the disruption to your end customer, which is always good from a Business One partner perspective. We offer a complete design and build service. So although it's a pay-as-you-use service each month at a total price for a dedicated service, or on a per user per month basis for multi-tenant, what we do at the beginning of the commissioning of our work is we design the system and we deploy it for you. And that's all included in your monthly cost. Security is key. So because we use AWS as our hosting platform, basically it offers the highest level of security and protection for your customers' data. And also you can be assured that it's compliant with any local or global regulations. Also, I mentioned earlier about the ability to offer freedom in terms of billing. So some of our partners who use our service are billed on a monthly basis. The majority are billed on a quarterly basis. However, one thing I would say is that we have the ability to offer different price points to our partners based on their geographical and market conditions. We don't set any recommended retail price, so there's nothing published outside of the partner network. And that means basically that you can charge what you want to your customer when you want. We also have the ability to offer a white labeling service. And we work together very collaboratively with our partner network. And the reason for that is because we actually see this as a growing model, where not only are we going to work with you on one project or 2 projects or 10 projects, we want to actually grow this so that you have the ability to offer as many of your customers as possible the option to deploy in the cloud. And that means working very closely with our partners to ensure that effective deployment and support and monitoring takes place. We have a global reach, as I've already mentioned to you. So these are the areas we've already deployed in. We have already 2 AWS regions in operation, the first in Dublin, the second one in Virginia. and we are shortly due to open a third region in Frankfurt, with a view to AWS also having a region supplying cloud for partners in APJ in 2021. And as you can see from the screen, there's a number of different questions that come up quite regularly with our discussions with partners. Certainly, many of these center around licensing, the ability to get things set up quickly, the move from on-premise to cloud. And by the way, one of the things we're helping our partner network to do is to bring their customers from on-premise to cloud as cheaply and cost effectively as possible. So we don't actually make any charges for that work. All we ask is that you give us the ability to work with you effectively to ensure that the deployment in our cloud service is as effective as possible. And we don't have any hidden charges. So as I mentioned, it's a consumption-based model. So we don't sneak in extra charges for additional databases, etc. What you see is what you pay each month. And also, we're keen to reassure partners who are working with us for the first time that data is secure and also hosted in the best possible environments. We don't enforce a minimum contract approach. This is very much an on-demand service. Think of it as pay-as-you-go, a bit like mobile telephony. So basically, you jump on when you need it, and you can take down the service when you don't anymore, or your customer no longer requires it. Just some rules to that. If it's a multi-tenant provisioning, we simply ask for 30 days notice. For a dedicated service unit that's built in a bespoke fashion for one of your bigger projects for one of your customers, normally it's a 90-day notice period. And as I mentioned, really what we want to do is enable a very simple message so it can be shrink wrapped and presented to your customers in a very nice and tidy way. I'll open up the floor to any questions from our visitors today. As I mentioned, you're welcome to put anything in the chat box. We have the ability also to follow up with any email questions that may be in a bit more detail or specific to your particular company or your customers. I appreciate sometimes these projects are confidential or sensitive. So if you don't want to raise anything in a public forum today, that's fine. You're welcome to drop me an email. My full email address is Darren, D-A-R-R-E-N, .Crawley, C-R-A-W-L-E-Y, at Ascari, A-S-C-A-R-I-I.com. You're welcome to drop any questions or comments post today's webinar. The webinar has also been recorded, and we will make this available on our dedicated YouTube channel. So if there aren't any immediate questions, I'd like to thank you for today. It's been a pleasure delivering the presentation to you. And if there's any specific areas in which we can help, particularly given the rather challenging circumstances at the moment, then please do contact us. We'd be delighted to offer any help, advice or assistance. Finally, may I wish you health, stay safe, and I'm sure over the coming weeks and months, we'll all come out of this and things will look a lot different. Thank you very much for your time today. Please have a good day. Bye-bye.